Challenge 4.3 is a much shorter video, but a much longer, a little more complex challenge. Because here's where it becomes creative. And unlike the tutorial, which was fairly easy, it's a 40-point project, it's a really easy thing to do, just to program that little tiny app. This next one, you got to do some thinking and some planning. And we're going to examine something called design thinking. Design thinking is kind of neat. Design thinking is talked about in the lesson right in here. And they go into some detail around here, but it talks about the process that real users or the real programmers use to create new apps. They don't just sit down and start throwing code out. Actually, code's like the last part of the process. First thing to think about is what are we trying to do and how are we going to try to do it? Then they start coding out. That's what we're going to do today. And in order to do this project, the first thing you got to do is some planning. So you're going to look at your app from 4.2 and you're going to say, okay, let's think about, and I want you to look at every time I highlight something, that's the part you're going to do. So it's highlighted, you're going to do it. Got it? And so what's going to happen is you're going to take a look at, you're going to empathize. You are going to empathize, meaning empathy is a word that means you are aware of another person's feelings and another person's wants and needs. So the first thing a good programmer does is they think empathetically. What kind of a program do people want? We are looking for something, and I'll make this a little bit larger so you can see it. We're looking for you to make a socially useful act. Okay, so some kind of a socially useful activity. Saving electricity, socially useful, right? You're going to have to pick a new one. You're going to write a new program on a new kind of socially useful activity and personalize it to make it a socially useful activity. And you're going to actually define the problem, meaning this app is meant to raise awareness about, like the last one was meant to raise awareness about the need to save electricity. It's a natural resource. So, or it's based on natural resources. And so you are going to have to then find ways to save electricity to save natural resources. Other people have done things with pollution, things with environmentalism, all kinds of cool stuff. Then you're going to brainstorm some possible ideas. What kind of a background sprite image would be good? What would make the app more interesting? I want you to go through that process. I want you to write the answers right in here. Notice this is highlighted. I want you to do the answers right in here. And then you're going to create some prototypes. You're going to kind of sketch it up. You can drop a sketch right in here. You can do insert. You can do a drawing product, and you can do a new drawing. And you can insert it right in there, and that'll tell me what you're thinking. And then you have to test it. Does it promote socially useful activity, and what should be changed? That actually is all described in this circle right here. They think about what users want, then they define the problem they want to address, and then they go through ideas and they sketch out a prototype and they see if it's kind of going to do what they want. If it doesn't, they try it again. Iterate means keep trying, testing, right? So we're going to go through that, iterate, keep trying, back and forth, testing. That word iterate is going to be huge, right? And then you're going to start up App Inventor, and you'll see that I'll start that up and I'll let it start to launch in here. And you are going to actually rename your lights off project. So you see it's right open. This is the project that we did together. You're going to go to save project as, and you're going to call it part 2. Or you're going to call it lights off project. Okay. And you're going to call it that. And this is as much as I'm going to give you, because everything you do after this point is entirely up to you. New images, new themes, new sprite, multiple sprites. Make it an interesting game. Turn it into something that's a little bit leveled up, okay? You can work alone or you can get a programming partner. I prefer if you've got a programming partner, but I understand that that's not always logistically feasible for you, right? Then you're going to add some features. And right in here, which is adding features, you're going to have to read the directions. Add a winning score feature that stops the game and congratulates the user. So you're going to have a variable. You're going to have to add a variable that keeps a score. So you might have to go into App Inventor and you might have to add a variable that you call score, for example, right? And then you initialize it to 0. So you throw it in. When it starts up, it initializes to 0. But then each time the sprite is touched, maybe you and I'll end this session because it's no longer connected. That's okay. What happened? How did that happen? Oh my goodness gracious! And so let's try this again. We'll just bring it right back. Sorry about that. Here we go. Let's go back to my lights off project. Sorry about that. I had it open in 2 windows. That's why that happened. It's my fault. Sorry about that. So let's go back. Remember, if I wanted to do a score, I'd get a thing called score, right? And I'd call it a score. And it's going to be one of the things you're going to have to do. And you're going to have to somehow or another give it a math value of 0, right? And then every time it's touched, maybe you're going to have to set the variable, right? Set variable global score, right? Maybe you have to set to equal, global score, sorry, to global score plus, maybe you have each time it's touched, it adds 1. And then maybe you have something happen where you use an if then, and you maybe have a situation in which it says if uh, let's do a logical comparison, right? So if, and I'll pull one of these in, and I'll say, oops, not equal, you doofus, that was silly. Let me go back to math, and where's my greater than, less than? That's logic, right? Nope, where is it? Where's my greater than, less than? There it is. And it's in math. And so if, let's say if the global score is greater than, let's set our win score at 10, right? Maybe I can do something cool where if I'm adding the global score of, maybe then I'll say, but then do something. It gives some kind of a win message or create something that'll tell the user that they want, and maybe stop the clock because the sound can be not the sound. I apologize. The clock. Um, you're gonna have to see if you can stop the clock or something like that, right? So those are all things that you can do. I'm gonna throw all that mess away. So let's get back to what you're being told to do here. So you're going to add these features, a notifier component to pop up and congratulate them. So one of the things is add a notifier component. So maybe when it hits 10, it congratulates it. Use the text-to-speech component to have it say something when the player reaches a certain score. Remember that if-then logic, right? Now brainstorm ways to implement the winning score. How am I going to write that? Hint, the clock has a timer-enabled property. Gee, I wonder how I'd set the clock off. And it says the clock component has a timer-enabled property that can be set to true or false. You see, the clock has this thing called set clock timer enabled, right? So it's got that going on, and actually under set timer enabled, right? And I could set it potentially to false. So if it hits a certain if then over a certain number, then maybe I could set the timer to false so it would stop firing, right? And then I could reset the app or something like that. I wonder how that would work. So it's certainly something you could make happen. Try to implement the winning score and do a reset game. So this has to be done. How are you going to reset the game? With a button where you'd add to reset the game and restart the score. Wonder how you do that, right? And then run the appropriate, each time you add one of these, test it. Add it, test it. Make each step work. Then finally, go down in here, and I want you to do 2 of the enhancements. Add the number of misses, all right? And then see if you can add another sprite or 2, and see if maybe you could have a 1-point sprite and a 2-point sprite. So maybe there's things like that. Or maybe good and bad sprites. If you're dealing with nutritious foods versus bad foods, and they're all bouncing around, you could have the user pop in and, okay, I'm going to pick okay, if I pick the potato chips, I lose 2 points. If I pick the fruit, I get 2 points, right? And you can pick a little picture of broccoli. If I pick the broccoli, I get 5 points. But if I pick the taco, I'm going to get a point. Although I should lose a point. Although frankly, I think tacos should gain you points because tacos are awesome. But that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about. Anyway, so that's the deal. Do that and get that done. Here are some things to kind of help you when this is done. You're going to turn it in on, of course, Flipgrid. So you're going to go over to Flipgrid, the Lights Off project. You're going to add it, and you're going to record your response. Make sure you tell me what enhancements you did and show me how the blocks work. So show me the project working, then show me how the blocks work. And make sure I see both of those. So it'll be a few minutes on that presentation, but you can get that done. That's all you need to know. Like I said, shorter video, but a tougher assignment because you've got a lot more to do. You'll have at least till Monday to get that done. Good luck.